At this one restaurant I worked at, we used to issue something called a comeback card. A comeback card would just invite a guest back that had an issue, and it was good for an entree. In order to issue these cards, we would have to go to the back of the house computer and we would have to generate a code and write it on the back. In order to redeem them, we would have to put that code into the POS and the manager would have to swipe in order to approve. So this one night we had a party of 11. It was a mix of adults and kids, and they were given tax time energy. That is not shade, but if you've ever worked in a restaurant, then you know exactly what I mean by that. They are ordering the perfect check. They have drinks, they have appetizers, they have entrees, they have desserts, and they are running every single person in that building. So it's a little bit more chaotic than a party of 11 should have been. The server goes to drop the check. Someone asks her to separate the drinks off. They go ahead and they pay for the drinks. The server drops the rest of the check. This table gives her 8 comeback cards. To be fair, there's no restriction on how many can be used on the check, but it's very rare that a party would have that many comeback cards at one time. Server comes to get me so I can help her with the check. I'm already suspicious because this is a lot of cards. I go to put the first card in. There's no code on the back. I turn the rest of them around. There's no codes for any of these cards. So I walk over there sweating and praying and sweating because I know that I'm about to ruin their entire night. So I go over, I ask if I can speak to the persons that are going to be taking care of the bill. This guy steps up and he says, we've already taken care of everything. Everything should be good. I said, well, not exactly. We seem to have run into a slight issue here. I'm unable to process your cards because they don't have codes on the back of them. He says, you don't need a code, just scan it. I say, well, these cards can't be scanned. And if we give them out to guests, there's a code that we have to write on the back of them in order for us to be able to put it in our system and redeem them for you. And he says, no, you don't need a code. You can just scan it. So I say, sir, that's not how these cards work. And I hold up the card to him. I said, there's no barcode. There's no QR code. There's nothing for me to scan. There needs to be a code on the back of it. Can I ask you where you got these from or who gave these to you? And he looks me up and down and he says, shoot, I think it was you. It might have been you. So I say, now, sir, I think we both know that's inaccurate. I'm not saying that you didn't get them from this location, but we know that I didn't give them to you. Perhaps someone else gave them to you while you were here. And then he calls his wife over. She comes over, he asks her where they got the cards, and she says, oh, from the guy that was here the last time. Why? Is there a problem? So then I go over why I'm unable to redeem the cards with her. She instantly gets upset and she goes, well, are you new? Can you get somebody else out here to scan her if you don't know how to? I say, listen, I know that you all came out with the intention of being able to use these cards to pay for your bill. I said, but we have a couple of issues here. One, they weren't issued to you correctly, so there's no way for me to be able to redeem them. And the second issue is that they only cover entrees. You all had appetizers and you had desserts. So even if I were able to scan these cards, you still would have to pay for the appetizers and desserts on the bill. They're a hooting and they're a hollering because the guy said that they could come in and order whatever they wanted and they would be taken care of. Tell you what, give me a second. Let me step to the side. Let me reach out to the GM to see what he wants to do. I cannot promise anything, but I'll be right back. I step to the side. I hit up the group chat. No one has given this party these cards. The GM is like, no, they need to pay. I go over, break the news. Unfortunately, there's nothing for us to do. I'll step to the side again and give you some time to figure out the bill. I walk up to the host stand because if they do try to walk out on the bill, I'm right there. I make a joke to the hostess and I'm like, hey, you ready to fight? Because these people are not trying to pay their bill. So the hostess, she gets like scared. And I'm like, no, girl, like I'm just playing. like I'm just making a little jokey joke. So she's like, well, is there anything that we can do for him? So I'm like, well, no, like GM said they got to pay. There's no way for me to redeem the card. And unfortunately, they got to pay the bill. She keeps asking me. And I'm like, girl, if you're feeling generous, like you can pay for it for him if you want to. Then she starts asking me about employee discounts. I explain what the policy is to her. And then she gets quiet. So now in my head, I'm like, this is a strange interaction. But I walk away. I go check on the party. I go back to the host stand. She's up there. She's texting. About a minute later, she's like, can I talk to you in private? I'm like, sure. She goes, can you promise that I won't get in trouble? So I was like, well, I can't promise that. It all depends. Like, did you hurt somebody? Like, do you know somebody's getting hurt? Like, what's going on? She goes, that's my mom and dad over there. I said, the people I've been arguing with about that bill for 20 minutes are your mom and dad? She says, yes. I says, well, how did they get the comeback cards, Trinity? She proceeded to tell me how one of the other managers had a stack of them one time and left them up at the host stand by mistake, and she proceeded to take a few of them and give them out to her family. Hey, okay, well, thank you for telling me. I'm just going to have you clock out now because it looks like your family could use a little bit more help trying to figure out how to pay the bill. It took them a while, and they paid the bill, and Trinity was fired the next day. Because why would you do that? Not only did you steal multiple cards, but you watched your family lie and argue with me about cards that they weren't supposed to have in the first place.